What's up guys, Woody here, back finally with another Mythgard video. Before we get into it, I just want to say I hope you all had a lovely holiday period. I'm sure you can understand that I took about 10 days off of any content creation. I've done a couple of streams here and there in between, and there is a video up now which I actually recorded after this video about where I'm going in 2020 basically. Nowhere drastically different or new, but as people who've been following me on this CCG journey for the last, I don't know, should we say 18 months. I've been streaming for a year. I've been streaming for about 14 months and content creating for about a year. So anyone who's been following me along that will know that I like to release the videos every now and then and keep people updated. But we're back to the Mythgards and we're back to the new to Mythgard videos. So if this is your first time ever finding this channel, ignore what I just said, you're here for this content. So these mini in-depth guides based around each colour are basically designed for brand new players. Designed for players who maybe played a couple of hours of the game, want to delve into some deck building, kind of getting a real understanding of the game. Maybe they've played some red or green or yellow and they really like that faction and they want to learn more about it, and that's why you're here. So these videos, we go through the basic overall aim of the faction, I should say. Obviously, today we're looking at reds. You know that because of the video title, and also you can see there's red on the screen. But anyway, we are looking today at the overall aim of red. What's red trying to achieve? We're then looking at tribes in red, okay? So we know that blue from the previous videos has got Valkyries. We know that green has got witches. We know that yellow has a sprinkling of canines, but also has the development or starting developments of a soldier's tribe. And we're going to look at red and what red offers in terms of tribal builds and in terms of tribes. And then we're going to look at, when we go through about 20 cards from the faction. These could be cards that I think are underrated, cards I think are overrated, cards I think are just simply auto-include in just red decks. No matter what deck you're running, you put this card in your deck. And then kind of must-craft mythics or rares. If you've got a couple of wild cards lurking around in your collection, then these are cards that you could definitely spend your wildcards on and you're not going to regret it. And then finally we look at free decks. Free decks that include red, all that are contrasting, and you can look at the cards I mentioned, how they go into the deck. We don't do gameplay in these videos. We aim to keep about half hour, 40 minutes. And then, like I said, they're in-depth guides breaking down each colour individually. So red, what is the aim of red? Well, if anyone has played an hour of any CCG or TCG anywhere in the world, you'll know that red's pretty much aggro. Red is burn decks, the rush decks, the aggro decks. What we mean by aggro is you put cards down, they have the ability called rush. If anyone's come from the world of Magic the Gathering, then you'll know that rush is haste. So you can play a card like Daring Trapezists and you can swing with it first turn. You play it, you swing it, 2 damage to the face. And what we mean by face is we mean the opponent's life. So you're swinging at the opponent and you're just trying to get their health down as quickly as possible. The flip side of it, because it's very good early game, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, like aggro red decks can be very hard to keep up with. They do lack a little bit in late game. There's a couple of cards that can give them some good sustainability. One card in particular that I'll be showing off later, which is very good at getting the most out of the value of your lower cards when it comes to red. But overall, it's a really fun faction. It's the second deck I played competitively on Mythgard when I climbed ladder was a purple-red rush deck. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It was very aggressive and I found a lot of success with it, especially through bronze and silver. The deck I'm going to be sharing you later on, which is a mono-red rush deck, it's also super cheap. A lot of the red rush decks are built around commons and uncommons with a couple of rares here or there. You can run a good red rush deck with no mythics in it, and that will fly you through bronze and probably carry you a little bit through silver as well. So they're very good decks to build when you're new to the game because you can be competitive without having to fork out loads of cash or try and find essence from absolutely nowhere. So that's kind of the aim of red. We're looking at winning by turn 7, turn 8. There are ways you can sprinkle it in, and it does act as a support where you can combine it with, say, something like green. And you can use these rush minions as almost control elements. So dropping down a 2/2 Daring Trapezists, rather than swinging to face, that 2 damage on a minion might mean that you can use a spell or something to actually remove the minion. So it can be used as more of a mid-range control deck with green or even with something like yellow. And then the most common deck on the ladder at the moment, which I am showing you later on, is red-orange, which gets huge value out of 2 enchantments. Enchantments are cards that do something to a lane. Now, one of them being red, one of them being orange, and it's those enchantments that really allow that late game sustainability. In red, it's Stairway to Hades, but I'll be showing you that card later on. So going on to tribes, red's got a few things here and there. It's got one tribe that's got a lot of minions in there, and I really feel like it's underdeveloped. I'll be going more into kind of what I want from the first expansion of Mythgard, which is coming the end of March. I'll be doing that in another video, like a big long opinion video. But the main tribe we have in red is vampires. You can see here Strigoi Pup is a vampire. You can see if we go down to Anglebiter, they're a vampire, or a vampire canine. We've got Strigoi Pureblood is a vampire. Blood Dolls is a vampire. Sorry, is a thrall actually. My bad. But synergizes with your vampires. Now, the vampires are pretty good. They're not super strong. They're not as strong as Valkyries. Like, you can take Valkyries at Mythic, in Mithril League, and sprinkling the other colour in, supporting them a little bit as a Valkyrie package, they can still be relatively competitive. Vampires can't really hold their own much past around about Gold League, but there is definitely the buildings there of potential good vampire decks as we go further on. Now, vampires mostly, or a lot of vampires use the word life tap, or the keyword life tap, basically meaning lifelink if you've come from the world of Magic, where if you do 3 damage to your opponent, hey, you get 3 damage, you get 3 health back to you. And you get these cards like Lamala's Kiss that actually allows you to turn any minion into a vampire, which again synergizes with vampires. Okay, you have the stuff like Strigoi Familiar, which allows you to reduce the cost of vampire cards in your hand by 1. Which is pretty good. Also on board, so if there's any cards that remove a minion that's 4 mana or less, Strigoi Pup could play into that. It's very rare, but it can play into that. Okay, and then you have big finishers. You have potential fun finishers with stuff like Lord Valentine. That every time one of your vampire minions breaches, it means does damage to the face. He gets a free standard action, which is insane. It's this card has been hilarious. It's not hilarious. It's been a lot of fun in the past. On paper, it sounds, what the hell? This is nuts. I can do really well with vampire decks. He is good, but he also can get removed quite easy as well. But on the whole, vampires are a fun tribe to play around with. There's nothing wrong with it. If you're new to the game, you're playing around in bronze, silver, there's nothing wrong with just going down here and literally typing in the vampire keyword and then just throwing these cards in your deck. You'll notice that Oku Dodona is a vampire, okay? And the synergy isn't huge, but stuff like this, stuff like Blood Dolls gives adjacent vampires 2-1, but when it dies, all your vampires are fully healed. And then you got ones here that reduce the cost of vampires. That's really the most you have from vampire synergy at the moment, apart from obviously Lord Valentine that has the synergy there. Other than that, you don't really have tons of vampire synergy, but it is the biggest tribe in red. The other one that I was talking about that is underdeveloped are Carnies. So you can see here Carnies. Carnies meaning they're from the carnival. And I think this is a really cool thing still. I'd love to see something like a big top enchantment that does something to Carnies. Carnies that have some kind of performance thing to them. There's so much they can do with the aesthetic or the design of these kind of vampires, these weird vampire-esque carnival people. And I think that'd be really good. I'd like to see some kind of crossover between carnival vampires and something like that. It'd be really cool. But tribe-wise, Carnies have no synergy. Putting Carnies into your deck, there isn't a card that does when X amount of Carnies deal damage buff by 1 or anything like that. There's no synergy like that really. We just have the Ringmaster and it's a nice idea for Carnies. I would just like to see more come later on. And then now let's go on to some cards. We're going to go through about 20 cards, like I said, and we'll go through what I think are not so much auto-include, but cards that you should definitely be thinking about. There are 1 or 2 that are auto-include, and one of them is definitely going to be Extract Life. Extract Life is a very, very good card. Red doesn't have tons and tons of removal. Remember, it's mostly an aggro deck. So it doesn't, I say it doesn't have tons of removal. That's some pretty good removal. Extract Life is probably the best single spot removal it offers. Now, this card's wording means that when you cast it, it costs the remaining of your mana to deal that much damage to a minion, granting you equal life. Now, you cannot use this card unless you have 3 red gems in your bar. You don't need any more than 3 red gems. The rest goes on your actual mana, not gem mana. So what I mean by that is, let's say that they've got a 5/5 on the board. If you have 7 mana and you cast this spell straight away, you don't then get 2 mana left over. It takes all that 7 mana and puts it into Extract Life, gives you 5 life back. You kill that minion, but you've just wasted 2 mana. Maybe you have like we said, a Daring Trapezis in your hand as well. You would play the Daring Trapezis first to make your mana go down to 5, to then use Extract Life to use the 5 mana, the remaining 5 mana, to deal that much damage to your minion, to the opposing minion. Remember, you cannot do this to face. You can't just go, I'm going to use 10 mana for my thing and do it to your face. It's to a minion. But you use that 5 damage to the minion, you'd gain 5 life back, and you'd be mana efficient. You'd make sure you're spending that mana when you could. Also, be careful on that you don't end up overspending, and then you can't use the Extract Life to kill something. It has happened to me in the past. But it's a very good card. It's one of the best spot removals in red. It plays into that, giving you life back. It can really get you out of a sticky situation late game. It's sometimes drawing you back 8, 9 life. Yes, it's your whole turn. But if you're removing an 8 or a 9 strength minion from their side, and you're getting 8, 9 life back, that's a huge swing. So it's definitely a card that I mostly have these in my deck when I'm playing red. Honestly, I can't think of a time I haven't had Extract Life in my red decks, but that's maybe that's just preference from me. Next, we go to a card that was nerfed a couple of months ago, but I gotta say it because it ran right, and when it's played well, it can be very, very fun. Orpheum of Horrors. When occupying minion dies, deal 1 damage to all minions and players. Yep, you heard right. So if you end up throwing down a Daring Trapezis on Orpheum of Horrors, you swing it 2/2 into another 2/2. Any minion on the board takes 1 damage, and opponents take 1 damage. Meaning if they've got minions that are sat on 1, it kills all of them. That's why it combines so well with something like Iron Flesh Performer, because Iron Flesh Performer has 1 armor. Meaning this can't take the 1 damage what Orpheum of Horrors throws out. Also, any cards that are warded won't take the damage because obviously it's non-combat damage. So Orpheum of Horrors there was a meta that ran around where Orpheum of Horrors ran absolutely riot. It was a very strong, quite degenerate meta. A lot of people hated it. I wasn't a big fan of it. But now the card, used to good effect, is definitely a card that can be quite fun. And when played right, can be good. And I definitely recommend new players playing around with it. Stagori Pup is, if you're playing mono red, it's not an auto include, but it's a very strong 1-drop. It's a 2/1 with life tap. So if you drop this guy down on the board and they don't put anything opposite, you're doing 2 damage to face and getting 2 life back. Just 1 swing on this guy gets you value back. It's effectively a swing of 4. So it's a really nice little 1-drop. It doesn't have rush because that would just be absolutely busted. But it's a very, very nice card. It can also mean that if they drop a card opposite, then they got to swing into it. As a chump blocker, it's blocking and it's also getting you back 2 life. If you pull it late game, you throw it down opposite, something that hasn't got overrun. A Sapo, it's stopping you taking the 8, 10, maybe potentially 12 damage from Sapo. It is then giving you 2 life back as well. It's not an insanely powerful, strong, bonkers, broken card, but as a 1-drop, it's a really nice 1-drop, and it goes into a lot of my red decks, and I definitely recommend it for people. Next, we're going to a card that is almost in every single red deck you ever play, and that is Daring Trapezis. It's a 2-drop, it's 2/2, and it's got rush. Simple as that. You can play this on turn 2. It can fly in a clear lane. It can do 2 damage to the face. If you play in first, you can remove stuff like the Grinny Collar Box off of it that are in greens, so you can stop their ramp. It's just a very strong card. It combines well with stuff like Orpheum of Horrors, where you can play it and swing straight away. It combines well with other cards. Another card I'm going to show you slightly later on, another enchantment I'm going to show you slightly later on, called Red Carnival. It's just a good strong card. Again, red decks pretty much always have at least 2, maybe 3 Daring Trapezis in. Why wouldn't you? It's a 2/2 rush minion that either does 2 damage to the face or does 2 damage to an opponent and potentially to a minion and potentially clears a lane. It's a very, very strong card. Next, we can move on to Dragon's Teeth. This is only in there because I'm going to mention another enchantment later on. There's this very, I don't want to say memey because it kind of takes away from it, quirky deck that you can play that is not great in the current meta because it's too slow, and it's Stretcher Control. So Stretch is a card I'm going to show you later on that pings the opponent every time they draw a card. You play it along with Dragon's Teeth, and it says each player draws an extra card at the start of their turn. So one benefit is you get to draw extra cards, you get more options in your hand. The second benefit is your opponent is taking 2 damage every turn while Stretcher is on the board. Sometimes you can get 2 Stretchers out. They're taking 4 damage per turn while Stretcher is on the board if Dragon Teeth is on the board as well. It can get very degenerate. It can get very strong. The issue is that is very much it can get. It very rarely does. The card is only played with Stretcher, really. I wouldn't 100% recommend playing on your own because remember, you're drawing an extra card. Your opponent is also drawing an extra card. If you're not punishing them for that, then you potentially give them options that you can't answer. But I wanted to mention it because it is an archetype deck out there. Normally played with yellow, red-yellow Stretcher Control is a deck that can be interesting to play around with. Let's just say that. Next, Firesong Prodigy. Now, you might have seen this card up here, Ignition, which is if you play Magic, it's Scorch. It's it deal 2 damage to anyone that is fated to the opponent or to a minion. The reason I didn't mention Ignition is because I'm going to mention it through Firesong Prodigy. Firesong Prodigy is a rare, so you can only have 2 in your deck. Awaken, you pop an Ignition spell in your hand. So effectively for 3 mana, you could play this and do 2 damage to opponent or a minion in the same turn. It's a strong card. It's not a bonkers crazy nuts card. It's not played so much in Red Rush because it's slightly slower. On turn 2 you want to be playing your Trapezists. On turn 3 you want to be going to the Wyverns. You want to be playing your Rush minions. This isn't a Rush minion. It's slightly slower. Yes, it gives you 2 damage in your hand, but it's a little bit slower. When you're going into the control side of Red, this is definitely a card you want to be including into your deck. The fact you're getting a 2/2 on the board, which is not a bad body for 2 mana, but you're also getting 2 damage spell in your hand that potentially allows you with Firesong Prodigy to ping a minion that's 4/4 and trade into it with Firesong Prodigy, meaning your 2-drop minion has potentially traded into a 3 or 4-drop minion. So that's pretty good value for yourself. So it's it's a good card when you're going down the control route of Red. That is for sure. Next up, we're going to a card that I honestly think is a little bit overrated, and that is Dashing Ringmaster. Now, you read this card and you think, wow, this is super strong. Friendly minions that are created with 4 or less strength get Rush, meaning that you play them, they can swing first turn. It's pretty good. It works. There's one card I'm going to show you later on that it can be absolutely busted with, but the idea of you actually getting both cards off in the same turn is almost impossible. The issue with Dashing Ringmaster is it's 1 health. So 1 ignition, 1 ping, any minion from a trade kills it basically. It just dies. And then giving Rush to 4 or less strength minions is fine, but most of the cards I want to be swinging with that have good damage, like your Iron Belly Wyverns, like your Trapezists, already have Rush. There's not many tons inside Red that are created. Potentially, you could argue that Cyclopean Giant would be nuts because it's a 7 damage with the focus going through. But really, the card is fine. If you're running Red Rush, I probably wouldn't even include it in Red Rush. It's pretty good later on if you're playing like a duo color deck, and maybe you've got 7 or 8 mana developed, because you could then play this and then play another minion to give it Rush, and you get at least 1 turn's value off Dashing Ringmaster. If the card doesn't get answered, on the other hand, then yeah, this card can get nutty, can get crazy. The thing is, it very rarely doesn't get answered. It's normally removed straight away. So it's a fine card, but it's not. Don't read this and think, oh my god, this card's amazing, I must put this in my deck straight away. It sounds great, it normally doesn't work as well. Also, we want to look at Crimson Pact. I said about spot removal from Red. We looked at Extract Life earlier. This is like the opposite to Extract Life. For 3 mana, 2 red gems, you can remove any minion on the board, which is crazy. Well, any minion that isn't warded. The flip side of it is you take that much damage. Now, if you're running this in like a vampire deck, or a deck that's got lots of life tap, then maybe that's not the end of the world. Maybe you gaining lots of health. Maybe you're sat at 40 health. You can use this on an IQ and take the 10 damage, but remove the IQ off the board. It can be very, very strong. It's great spot removal. It also can be very annoying when you're maybe only on 8 life and they've got a 6 strength minion on the board. You're like, oh, I need to remove this, but I go down to 2 life. Like, oh. So it's a good card. It is a good card. It's good spot removal. Anything that is single spot removal is obviously good, especially in the control versions of Red. In the aggro versions of red, you can run it if you want, but most of the time you're going to be just swinging with your minions anyway. On your turn 3s, you want to be finding your wyverns, which is the next card we are looking at. Wyvern is just here. Iron Belly Wyvern. It's rush and it has teleport. This is effectively your dashing ringmaster with a little bit more spice to it. It has free attack, 2 strength, so it can still, like a dashing ringmaster can trade into it, kill it for 2. But it does 3 damage to the face. It also has teleport, meaning that you can move it anywhere on the board. But remember, teleport counts as a move action. So if you play it and you teleport it somewhere, you can't then swing with it. You need another one. Rush doesn't mean you can play, you can move, and then swing. It doesn't unfortunately work like that. You need the move action will take up your attack. But it does what it says on the tin. It's 3 damage to the face. If you play Iron Belly Wyvern, so if you play Daring Trapeze turn 2, Iron Belly Wyvern turn 3, that's 5 damage alone. If the Trapeze wasn't answered, that's 7 damage by turn 3. So you can already start seeing how the red aggro can really start ramping up. Now we want to look at Hecate's Will. Hecate's Will is an enchantment, and it again goes down the more control side of red. Now, I want to mention the control side of red as much as possible because it is strong and it can be very good. So this enchantment is unsuppressible. They can't stop this enchantment from doing what it does. And while it's occupied, the enchantments in the opposing 3 lanes are suppressed. If they've got a Bald Mountain now, if they've got Stairway to Hades, if they've got a Heaven and Back in the opposite 3 lanes and this goes down, it's done. And even better, the minion that's on this enchantment is warded. So they can't just use a spell to get rid of that minion. They can banish it, but they can't use a spell to get rid of it. They have to play opposite and combat trade into that minion to be able to get the ability to be able to remove the minion, to be able to get their enchantments unsuppressed. It's a very good control enchantment in red. And I feel like sometimes it's overlooked in red control decks. Now, we're going to go to Ikor's Feast. Ikor's Feast is a quick card. It's card draw. Simple as that. It's the only way, it's one of the only ways red gets. There's one other card that red can use as well to get card draw. But this simple. You might say, why have I got to pay 3 life? 3 mana to draw 3 cards is absolutely nuts. So the downside being, 1, you need 3 red gems. 2, you lose 3 life. It's as simple as that. It's still not bad. When you're playing rush decks, you're normally playing ahead of their life anyway. By the time you can go through your hand very quickly playing rush. Because you're burning a card, you're playing, you're burning a card, you're playing, you're burning a card. You're effectively playing 2 cards every turn because you're burning and playing, and only drawing 1 back every turn. So you can get through your hand very quickly. By turn 4, turn 5, dropping an Ikor's Feast can be great because it can mean that it'll give you a bit of stability in the mid game. So it's a very good card. If you're running red, mono red, this is definitely an auto include. Most red decks will run this anyway because you take the 3 life for 3 card draw. It's very strong. And the other card that gives you card draw is Panic Raider. Panic Raider is a free drop, 2 red gems. Again, has rush. The ability here is when you breach, so when you do face damage to your opponent, Panic Raider gets -1/-1, so it will go down to a 1/1. You will take 1 life of damage as a leader, as the pilot, and then you get to draw a card. It's very, very strong. It was nerfed recently-ish where you didn't used to take 1 life. But this card was in every single red deck. It's still in pretty much every single red deck. You take the 1 life to draw a card. Simple as that. It's a very, very good card. It plays into that rush as well. By turn 4, let's say that you've swung with Trapezes twice. Let's say that you swung with an Iron Belly Wyvern on turn 3. Turn 4, you play a Panic Raider because your hand's starting to get a little bit small. You swing with that. You have managed to do 9 damage to your opponent by turn 4, and you're now drawing a card back. That's insane. That's nearly half their health gone by turn 4. Not saying all the other stuff going on. Maybe you swung with the Wyvern again. It can be very, very strong, especially in mono red decks, and it plays in with that rush ability. Now, next card we're going to go on to is a card that is mixed, in my opinion. It's both great and it's both bad. So Frecky Huntress is a card that when I first started playing the game, I was like, my God, this card is nuts. And basically the answer to that is, or my thoughts on it now is, it can get nuts, but it's not easy to get it nuts. So this comes out as a 2/2 body. It's 3 mana, it's 1 red gem. So if you're playing it in duo card decks, it works very well. So it has Alpha Strike, meaning that's first strike from magic. So if you do damage, so basically if you're trading into a 2/2, you don't take any damage because you do the damage first before your opponent's damage comes back. If you're trading into a 2/3, then you'll die. The opponent will go down to 1 health because their health outweighs your attack. They won't die and they will do their damage back to you. But if you manage to kill a minion, a 2/2 or a 1/1 or a 3/2, then you kind of convert. So you awake, shall we say, into the Awakened Huntress, and this is where the card gets a little bit nuts. It's a 4/3 Alpha Strike life tap. So anything with 4 or less health on their side does no damage to Awakened Huntress, and every time you're taking the life tap back. You put this on a Charmer, buffed by 1/1, a 5/3, a 5 Alpha Strike card. I cannot stress to you in this game how hard that could be to potentially remove. It's a very, very hard card to remove. This, unfortunately, Freaking Huntress gets removed by Scorch. It gets removed by Thunderclap. Scorch, by Ignition, by Thunderclap. Anything that's got a free health with 2 damage will remove it. So if you can get Awoken and buff this up, it's very, very strong, but it's not the strongest card. Especially if you're early in the game and you haven't got a big collection. Yeah, throw these into your red decks, into your red rush decks, into your red control decks. Throw them in, see how it feels. Play around with it because it can get like a strong card. But it isn't nearly as good as I personally used to think it was. It's absolutely fine is the best way I can probably sum it up. Next, we're going to move on to Blood Dolls. Blood Dolls is a card I quickly mentioned earlier. I mentioned it. It's basically your Vampire Synergy. This is only ever played in a Vampire deck, and I will be honest, I actually took out my Vampire deck in the end because I was never finding it. But if you're playing a Vampire deck, and again, I recommend if you're new to the game and you're in the Bronze League and you're not worried about grinding your way up ladder, you want to learn the game, play a Vampire deck. They're really fun. They are genuinely really fun. And this here just gives nice synergy. 2/1. So you can imagine now if you go back to our Freaking Huntress, this isn't a vampire, but if we're awoken, a 4/3 vampire, if we put Blood Dolls next to this goes to a 6/4 Alpha Strike vampire with life tap. So you can start seeing how the synergy with Blood Dolls and vampires can really start to build up, and it's pretty good. It's a nice way of synergizing with the vampires, and I hope more synergy comes in with the vampires as we go on. Now we're going to go to that enchantment I mentioned earlier that can get a little bit crazy with rush minions, and that's Red Carnival. So when another minion dies, Occupy minion gets +2/+2. Not when one of your minion dies, when any minion dies. So the reason this can get crazy is if we think about our Trapezists and our Wyverns. So let's say we're getting towards the end of the game. There's a Red Carnival on the board. We only need 5 mana to play a Wyvern and a Trapezist. Let's say we put down the Wyvern on Red Carnival. It's got rush so it can attack. It goes down at a 3/2. Next to the blocking Red Carnival is a 2/2 opponent's minion. I play my Wyvern. I trade my Wyvern for 2/2 into their 2/2. 2 minions have died. So now this minion's getting +6/+6. My Wyvern is now a 9/8 with rush. Damage to the face. Now, I've made it sound very strong, very powerful. This card can get very strong and very powerful. Is it a must play? No. But if your collection isn't huge and you want to play some mono red, there's nothing wrong with putting down Red Carnival. It can mean that some of your early game minions actually end up getting a bit more mid to late game sustainability or a bit more mid to late game threat. And it's quite fun. It's a fun enchantment to play around with. It's a fun enchantment that when it works and you get these 6/6, 7/7s, 8/8s, 9/9s swinging at your opponent, you're just like, you feel like a god. And it's great. So Red Carnival is definitely one I recommend play around with. Cyclopean Giant is up next. This is one of my favourite red cards, and I can't even tell you why. Cyclopean Giant. You go 2/6. It's not that great. 4 mana. Well, it's 1 red gem. So I run 3 copies of this in my green deck, in my red green deck. And Focus 5 means if you attack the lane directly opposite where Cyclopean Giant is, you do an additional 5 damage. Meaning that makes this a 7/6. A 7/6 for 4 mana. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. Now this is great for defense as well. If they've got a big minion on the board, let's say they've got their own 7/7 on the board. They've got Kara Morning Wives on the board that's currently at 5/6, and it's going to go up to a 7. It's going to go up to a 6/7 next turn. Well, easy. For a Cyclopean Giant opposite, they now have to move Kara Morning Wives because they attack in the Cyclopean Giant. It's a trade. It's a fair, straight up trade because there's 7 damage on the focus. They have to move outside the direct opposite lane to then try and remove. And the 6 health is nothing to be snubbed at. 6 health gives Cyclopean Giant good sustainability for blocking chumps, for blocking minions. And if they give you that 3 lane opposite, 7 damage to the face is nothing to be snuffed at. It's a very good amount of damage to get done, and it can really put your opponent on the back foot. I really like this card. I really do like this card. Next up, Oak of Dodona. Oak of Dodona is one of the coolest looking card arts there. The vampire tree with skulls and crossbones, and my ex-girlfriend here in the corner looks disgusting and looks great. But it's a mobile. Please remember this. Please don't play this and then play Impel onto Oak of Dodona and try and move it. But what does Oak of Dodona do? Oak of Dodona, when one of your other minions dies, your opponent takes 1 damage, you gain 1 life. So let's say you've got a piece on the board and they just drop down a 2/2. You're going to trade into it. You're going to take the trade. If you've got Oak of Dodona in your hand, don't take the trade yet. Play the Oak first in a lane you want to play it because you can't move it, and then trade, because then your opponent will take 1 damage, you'll take 1 life. It's a little swing of 2. The nice ability of this card is when it's 4/3, but then when it dies, you not only get to draw a card, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and choose which card you want to draw. Playing Oak on curve means they need to deal with a 4 damage minion, which is something that they don't want to be taken to face. But then it also allows you to get the consistency of setting up your mid to late game by looking at 3 cards in your deck and saying, do you know what? I need an extract life now because they're going to start playing their big minions. I've got my mana to remove it. Maybe I need my Lord Valentine, a card we're going to look at in a minute, that gives me the extra standard action because I'm playing a vampire deck. Maybe I need my Firestorm Prodigy because there's a 2-drop on the board that's pissing me off and I need to get my Ignition in hand to get rid of it. It gives you that consistency. So it's a very good card. It's almost auto-include in almost every red deck I play. I think it's a really strong card. A very strong mid-game card. Then we're going on to Wings of Abaddon, which is definitely a auto-include in pretty much every red deck I've ever seen and any red deck I've ever played. So if you've got red rare wild cards sat in your library or collection, go craft this card now. It is one of the best, if not the best, red rare card in the game. It used to be even more nuts than it is now because it used to have overrun. So yeah, it used to be crazy. Basically what this card is, it's a 4/1, so don't let the 1 health put you off just yet. 4/1 with Rush. So you get a clear lane, you can do 4 damage straight to the face. If you're playing Impel, you got 5 damage straight to the face. That sometimes in its own right can be lethal. Combine this with something like Red Carnival. So you put this on Red Carnival, trade one of your other minions into another minion. That gets 6/6. This now goes to a 7/10. A 7/10. Like, what? What? Nuts. Sorry, no. It goes up by 4. So it goes to a 5/8, which is still absolutely bonkers. A 5/8, 8 damage to the face. Here's where the real nice stuff comes in. You can sacrifice one of your other minions to get immortal until the end of your turn, meaning this can't die. So you can trade this into anything bigger than it and it won't die. Now this comes in great. Let's say one of your other minions got Blight. Let's say they got Blight and they're going to die next turn. Play Wings, pop that minion, give this immortal, maybe buff it with Infuse, trade it into a 5 cost. You've now removed that, and this is an answer they have to deal with. Yes, it's only 1 life, but they don't deal with it, then they are in trouble, okay? It's a really good card. It's a very strong card. They had to make the nerf to get rid of the overrun because it was crazy silly, especially when you had it on something like Red Carnival. But it's a very, very strong card. And it's definitely one that you want to be putting into your red decks. That's for sure. Next, we go on to a card I can never pronounce right. And I know it pisses a lot of people off when I pronounce it wrong. Gigantomachia is how I'm going to say it. Gigantomachia. Gigantomachia is a extremely strong red card, especially if you're playing red control. This card has to be in your deck. As simple as that. What it does is it banishes all minions with 4 or more health, not power. So your Wings is fine. Lots of your rush minions are fine. You wouldn't normally play this in a rush deck, but I mean, you could play it in a rush deck because it might get rid of a lot of your opponent's board. There's nothing wrong with playing it in a rush deck. it's very, very strong. And by banish means they don't even go to the boneyard. They are out of the game. There's no way they can get those cards back. They're done. They're dusted. See you later, mate. You're never coming back in this game. Bye to the bye. It's very good. It's very strong. Is it your first must-craft Mythic Red? That's for you to decide. It's one of them. If you've got a red Mythic wildcard sat in your collection at the moment and you're wondering what to craft, this is definitely one of the potential crafts that you want to go with. I would argue there's one in a minute that's going to be better for you, especially in the current meta. But this is one, if you want to play more control deck, if you want to play more red control, this is definitely a card that you need to be keeping an eye on. And when you get the chance to craft it with Essence or with a wild card, then definitely craft it if control is your game. Next up, Magmatar. Magmatar is a great card because one, we get it free. When you play the story, you get this card free anyway. This card is super, super strong. If you're playing red, even red rush, this goes in red rush decks because it allows you to clear up lanes. When you play this card for a free body, which is nothing to be snuffed at again, you deal 3 damage to minions in the opposing 3 lanes. You could potentially wipe 2 lanes clear for your wings to come down and swing through, or for your wyvern to stay on the board and swing through to get damage. Remember, if they've got 2 minions on the board, you've got your wyvern, say, on a red carnival, you play Magmatar, you clear those 2 minions, your red carnival's just buffed your wyvern up to Maths Woody 6-7, and you swing 6-7 to the board, and you've got a 3-3 next to it. That's the kind of combos that Magmatar can build into. It can clear lanes. It's very, very good. I play this in control decks. I play this in rush decks. It's a good card. It's yeah, very strong. You probably want 2 of them as well. You don't even need to craft these bad boys because you get them by playing the story. So it's as easy as that. Next up, we're going to go to Stairway to Hades. Now, I said earlier, the current meta, one of the favourite, I don't want to say current meta, the favourite deck on ladder at the moment is red-orange, or as it's better called, to Heaven and Hell. Heaven and Hell because you're using Stairway to Heaven, which is an orange enchantment, which works very similar to the Stairway to Hades, and you're using Stairway to Hades, which counts as the Hell. When an occupying non-demon minion dies, return it to play, so it doesn't come to your hand, it goes straight back to this card, and it is now a demon and gets Frenzy permanently. Now, what that means is, let's say there's a wyvern on the board, and you've got a 3-3 minion opposite. You play Stairway to Hades underneath the wyvern. You trade the 3-2 wyvern into their 3-3 minion. It clears their minion. The wyvern pops straight back, and it has rush. So the wyvern pops back, and you can now do 6 damage to the face with the Stairway to Hades. You're going to want to move that wyvern off the enchantment, though, because you can see here it's non-demoned. It returns as a demon. So if it dies on there again, it doesn't return. This enchantment, combined with Heaven and Back, allows red and orange to get crazy late game presence and sustainability, because all of your smaller minions are just regenerating. They're just reanimating themselves, but are coming back with a little bit more bite. With the Stairway to Hades, it's coming out with Frenzy. With the Stairway to Hades and to Heaven and Back, it's coming back with Agile and +1/+1. It's a very strong deck. It's a very good deck. This, in my opinion, is probably going to be one of your first crafts mythics. It didn't used to be the case, but it's super strong. I recommend playing around with it because there's some crazy combos you can get going with this enchantment, and it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend you check it out. Yes. Second from last card, we're looking at Lord to the Valentine, or Kanye West, as many people call it, because let's be honest, it looks a lot like Kanye West. We spoke about this card earlier. If you're playing vampires, you play this card. If you're not playing vampires, you don't play this card. It's as simple as that. This isn't a must-craft mythic. However, if you do pull this from a pack, I do recommend playing around with vampires. I recommend going in there, seeing what vampire cards you've got, building what kind of vampire synergy you can, and then going in and filling it out where you can and playing. Because learning how to build up standing actions with this is going to improve your playing ability. Being able to trade into minions, to buff up, to clear lanes, to give extra attacks to Valentine, to find lethal, is all going to be something that's going to kind of challenge you to think outside the box, shall we say. And he has agile, so he doesn't even need a clean lane. He can just swing past minions for fun, basically. It's a strong card in a vampire deck. It's not a broken card. It's not a bastard card. It's not a crazy good card. But in a vampire deck, it is very, very good. And more importantly, it's fun. I like playing Lord Valentine when I play vampires because it's just fun. And the last card we're going to go to is potentially one of the must-craft mythics. So between the mythics that I recommend you go craft for red, it's going to be Gigantomachia, it's going to be Stairway to Hades, or 7 Ring Ritual. Now this is a 7 cost 2 red gem card. Rush decks, you might struggle to get this out because you normally stop burning by around about 5, sometimes 6 minions. Maybe you keep burning because you want to get this card out. However, if you're playing anything other than Rush with red, this card is an auto include in your deck. It is crazy. You play 7 Ring Ritual, create a 3/1 Hellions in each lane, in each of your unoccupied lane. These guys over here, 3/1, come straight out and cover all your lanes. You play this when you have a clear board normally. You play this, all 7 lanes have got a 3/1 in there. If they haven't got an answer for this, and even if you get 4 clear lanes to swing through, you are still doing 12 damage to your opponent with a 7 cost card. This is a game winner. You play it at the right time and your opponent can't answer it. It's game over. It's curtains, it's tears. They've got one. If they're top decking, you drop this bad boy. They pull 1 card, they throw 1 blocker down. You're like, cheers, mate. I'll trade that one in there. I'll swing through my other 6 minions and I'm going to end up doing 18 damage to your face. It's absolutely nuts. This was also the card I spoke about. If you remember Dashing Ringmaster, the card I mentioned earlier, that is slightly overrated. If you're playing mono red or you're playing red whatever and you've managed to get 10 mana and you've managed to get 5 red gems or 4 red gems in your pool, there is a chance you can play Dashing Ringmaster in the middle and then you can play 7 Ring Ritual because it's 4 strength, so they are under the 4 strength and they do get rush. It's not a very good combo. It's a combo I never see. There's a reason you never see it because it's too expensive, but it is worth noting that is a combo. But yeah, that's the cards, guys. That is the cards. Hopefully that helped you out if you're, like I said, new to the game and you're wondering about what red cards do I include, where do I go, what red cards are good. That should hopefully help you out a little bit there. Now we are running slightly longer than I wanted to, but let's jump across to some decks quickly. Let's just quickly jump in and see some decks. I've got 3 decks for you and all these decks are linked below. So if you're interested in playing some of these decks, then jump down below. You can literally go to the Mythgard hub link below, export them, import them into your in-game client, and off you go. Bob's your uncle, okay? First one is Mono Red. Now this wasn't made by me. This was made by Sleeveless. I found on Mythgard hub. It's a super cheap deck. If we look up here, this deck costs 10,000 essence. It's very cheap. If we go down the thing here, it's running 2 mythics. And again, you could get rid of these 2 mythics if you wanted to get rid of them. Simple as that, okay? You could trade them up for something else. You can see here, we've got our Extract Life, 2 Extract Lives. Our Ignitions, because it's a rush deck. So we're playing these. We're playing Fast and Prodigy. So effectively, we have 4 Ignitions, potential to get through to. The reason these are good is because if it gets to mid to late game and you start getting blocked out, you got your opponent down to 4 life, but you can't get through. You have 2 Ignitions in hand. Double Ignition to the face can win. You haven't got to find the clear lanes. You can just ping their face for it, okay? Your Iron Flesh Performer. Obviously, it's slightly slower. It's not the 1-drops you necessarily want to be definitely finding, but with red decks, you want to be finding 1-drops. Simple as that. You have to have board presence on turn 1. 1 turn with a red rush deck can put you hugely behind. There you go. You fight your Daring Trapezis and Fast and Prodigies are your turn 2s. Crimson Pack's in there. Straight up spot removal. You're normally playing ahead of life count anyway because you're swinging at them. Their life's down lower than yours, so you can afford to give up a bit of life to remove minions and create clear lanes. Then your Icon Feast, you want card draw. That's why you're running all 3. Iron Belly Wyverns, Panic Raiders, Red Carnival's in there for a little bit of added spice. Maybe if you need to find lethal and you need to buff something up, you can use an Ignition to kill a minion to even buff it up by 2. So you even get a Wyvern up to something like a 5/4. That could still mean lethal. Oka Dodona, we said, it's a super strong card on turn 4. Wings, it's a rush. Get a clear lane, it's potential 5 damage to face. Gigantomachia can get rid of your opponent's big fatties. And Magmatar can clear lanes. That's the deck. That's the deck. Nice and simple mono red deck. Super cheap. If you haven't played mono red yet, go take this deck, this link below. Run around with it, see how you feel with it, see how you get on with it. Next, a little bit of self promotion, you know. Woody's Growl. This is one of my favourite decks. Now, I had to re-import this because I actually got rid of it. Because I changed some cards and I tweaked it around a little bit. So I had to re-import it. That's why it says 0-0. But I got very much a positive win rate with this deck. And a lot of people who've played this deck have also really enjoyed it. It is substantially more expensive. It's 28,000, nearly 29,000 essence, 19,000 essence more, and it does have a substantial more amount of mythics. But the idea of this deck is you're playing mid-range control. So I say mid-range control. The control elements come with the Gigantomachia. They come with the likes of your Short Stag and IQ, allowing to stop them out. Rewind Hex is there to control any enchantments that get put on the board. Detained and Deport is there to stop minions down as well. So you have some control elements to it. It's not really an aggressive deck because you can see here we've got Ignitions as our 1-drop. Then we have no 2-drops. We have no Wyverns in this deck, okay? We're looking at our 1-drop we want here is our Grinning Collarbot. We want to ramp up. Then we want to use the red mid game to really apply some pressure. And then the green late game to go, here's my 8-8 Short Stag. Here's my 10-10 IQ. Fated Firebird is a crazy good card if you're playing green-red. This deck is really strong, and I really enjoy it. It's honestly one of my favourite decks I've ever played. And again, people I've shared it with, there is a deck video up there if you want for it. If you're interested by this deck, there's a whole deck video on how you go play it with a budget version of the deck. This is the fully optimized version that costs nearly 30,000 essence. But if you have the cards, give it a run. It's a really strong deck. I don't know how it will fare in the current meta with the red-orange everywhere and the Stairway to Hades and Heaven and Back. But it's a deck I definitely recommend you try out, and it is fun. And the final deck we're going to look at is the deck at the moment, the one that everyone's running, Heaven and Hell. This deck is nuts. This deck is super strong. This deck has an answer for almost everything. In terms of essence cost, it is cheaper. It's 25,000 essence. It has, like I said, it has a lot. So you can see here you got more 1 and 2 drops compared to the green-red. You have stuff like Muse because it's just card draw. It gives you, it's a 4-1 on the board. If they don't answer a 4-1 on the board turn 3, then you're doing 4 damage to face. If they do answer it, you're getting card draw. In a deck that's more mid-rangey, then that's huge, okay? Now you'll see down here like Magmatar and down here Armageddon Angel. Other than that, we haven't got any big minions compared to the green ones. You might think about, where's our late game coming from? Well, it's coming from the Heaven and Back, and it's coming from the Stairway to Hades. Having cards like Magmatar or even Armageddon Angel that can't go on Heaven and Back because it's an angel, but can go on Stairway to Hades, having those cards that just kind of reanimate, Wings that can reanimate on Heaven and Back. We have stuff like Perry at the Gates, Shadow of Our Beast, even Scorn of Pride. All of these can reanimate on Stairway to Hades, or some of them on Heaven and Back. That's where the sustainability comes with this deck. It has aggro, okay? It has mid game. It has late game. It has control. It's a very, very, very strong deck. If you want to climb ladder and you have the cards, just go copy the link below, take this deck, import it into your in-game client, and you'll just obviously you need to play it well, but you will be amazed how strong this deck is. It is nuts. I'm going to be playing it soon on stream. I've kind of steered away from it for a little while because I'm like, I don't really want to go down the route of playing the deck everyone's playing, but I do want to climb ladder. And I want to climb ladder. I'm going to play a deck that's tried and tested. And this is definitely tried and tested, and it's very, very strong. But anyway, that's going to wrap up the video, guys. That taking you through, sorry it's been nearly 50 minutes long, but if you're new to the game, hopefully it's helped you out. If it has helped you out, then let me know in the comments below. If it hasn't helped you out, I can only apologise. But red is a fun colour to play. I definitely recommend playing around with red. I definitely recommend sprinkling them in with some stuff. Red-purple can work with aggro, red-yellow can work with control, red-blue is okay, it's not brilliant. Red-green, like I said, mid-range control is pretty nice. Red-orange is nuts bonkers. It's a good colour to play around with. It's good supporting and it's good mono. But anyway, that is going to wrap up, guys. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for checking the video out. If you liked it, then give it a little like. And if you haven't done already, and to keep up to date with more Mythgard content, including these new to Mythgard series videos, or including deck videos. I've got a deck video I'm working on at the moment for a blue-purple enchantment deck. Then make sure you subscribe to the channel. Or in the link below, you can go find out. I stream over on Twitch 3 times a week. You can go check out below if you want to go see, go follow me over on Twitch and see when I'm streaming next. But yeah, until next time, guys, have a wonderful one, and goodbye.